Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. This is Catania Alvin speaking from London, and I'm bringing you a sort of medley, if you like, of Brexit videos that have been made over the time. Now, we're going to start with Mark Collett, and he did this one on December the 14th, 2018. So I'm just going to play a bit of this. All will go into the description box, so you can look at them there. Let me thank all the wonderful comments I've had, very interesting, and I've answered some, but not nearly as many as I would like to. And also subscribers, thank you very much. Keep subscribing, keep liking, and keep sharing, and let's get this information out. Okay. Here we go.
Theresa May and the Conservatives have royally messed up Brexit. Theresa May's proposed Brexit deal, and I use the word deal in the loosest possible way, because when people use the word deal, they are usually referring to some kind of mutually beneficial agreement. However, Theresa May's Brexit deal would be far more accurately described as terms of capitulation. So much so that earlier this week Theresa May was forced into a humiliating climb down and withdrew her proposed deal before it could be voted on in Parliament. She knew it was terrible, she knew that MPs knew it was terrible, and she knew that the public knew it was terrible. But being the unprincipled person she is, she only pulled the deal because she knew it was going to be defeated, not because of its lack of worth. But before we get into her humiliating climb down and the possible ramifications of her withdrawing the deal at the 11th hour, let's examine her terms of capitulation.
Okay, please go on to that video and listen to Mark Collett. It's an extremely good and informative YouTube that he's put up. Now, I brought this one up to give an idea, just an idea, of what the European Union, what it's based on. And this came up, and I thought it was a brilliant expose, really. Here we go.
I agree. But thank you for taking my question. In your speech, the translator describing the nomination of Mr. Juncker as a victory for democracy. At the next session...
Now, this is very important. People keep, in the European Parliament, they keep talking about democracy. And this gentleman, I think it's the Earl of Dartmouth's question, captures the farce.
The Parliament, will Mr. Juncker's name be the only name put forward for the Parliament to vote on? And if Mr. Juncker's name is the only name put forward for the Parliament to vote on, as has always happened in past precedents, how can this possibly be a victory for democracy, even for a socialist?
Good for him.
Yeah, that's okay.
Caro collega, dear colleague, let me
so that's dear colleagues.
In simple terms. First of all, the governments get together and they nominate a president of the Commission. That's not a demonstration of great democracy. For the first time in history, there was an electoral campaign where the big European political families indicated.
Those big political families are very likely to be the big bankers.
The personalities and the citizens cast their vote in cognizance of those personalities, and the majority result of the vote was for Mr. Juncker. The democratic consequence of that is...
Here we go, the democratic consequence of that.
The nomination of Mr. Juncker. I think that can't be too difficult to get your head around.
Well, I think it's very interesting because there we are. He's the only one on the ballot paper. Anyway, now this is Nigel Farage, and by production in-house for the 1st of February 2019.
Public opinion, indeed public anger, had a big impact on those votes in the House of Commons yesterday, and with it we've seen a diminution of the risk of a second referendum. For now, the prospect of Article 50 being extended taken off the table. And when I hear speakers, despite the Spellman Amendment, saying today they're worried that the risk of a no deal has increased, you're right, it has. But not because of what happened last night in Westminster, but because of the response.
When the Theresa May's vote failed.
Gentlemen, we got from you this afternoon. You know, even when the Prime Minister actually gets a majority behind her. And all right, I accept she made a dreadful mistake by signing up to the backstop. You summoned her. At 4:15 in the morning, she left Downing Street. She went to meet the ultimatum that you'd set her. She signed up to something that has proved to be a disaster. She signed up to something that no country, unless it had been defeated in war, would have signed up to. We now realise that mistake, and actually, the House of Commons, the country, is overall looking for a deal. But you know something? Before the referendum, no one knew who the European Commission were. That Maoist Barroso was a complete unknown. You guys are now household names. And what we've seen is an appreciation in Britain that unelected bureaucrats in Brussels have been talking down to and humiliating the Prime Minister of our nation, and we don't like it. And even when she comes back, trying to be reasonable, saying let's renegotiate, you're not prepared to give an inch. The reason that a no-deal Brexit's got a little bit closer is because of the sheer language and attitude, not just from the Commission, but from many in the Parliament towards the United Kingdom.
The EU have really shown their colours, and I think from what he's saying and also a number of videos I watch, people are not happy with the European Union, and probably they might have been Remainers and thinking, thank God we are in the process of getting out. Right, this next one is John Redwood on the next step towards Brexit, and this one was screenshot on the 26th of February 2019, and she asks, how are you feeling this afternoon? No, somewhat cocky little voice, but there we are.
Well, I'm fine, and I trust we will be leaving the European Union on the 29th of March, which is...
I think the word trust is very interesting.
What we voted to do. The government has had 2 years, 8 months to negotiate the deal. Unfortunately, it hasn't been able to negotiate a sensible deal, and it was decisively rejected by Parliament. So unless the Prime Minister can come up with something in the next few days, then we should just get on with leaving. It's not crashing out, it will be cashing in, because we could have a budget in April this year to spend a lot of that money that we'll otherwise be giving away to the European Union.
But my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, from what the Prime Minister has been saying today, it's either, well, she used to say my deal or no deal, now she's saying it's my deal or delay. So you're going to support her deal?
It's very interesting, my deal or no deal, or, you know, this is where she keeps jumping around. Okay, we've skipped ahead to the 5th of March, and this is Ian Duncan Smith being interviewed, and it's UK to leave EU without deal agreement, ex-Tory leader says.
His legal advice on the backstop, will that be enough?
Now she's talking about Geoffrey Cox, the Attorney General.
Get this deal through Parliament.
Well, there are a number of things wrong with this this deal that's been done. And the backstop is the single most important one, because if you have a backstop from which you cannot leave, then that means that the negotiators on the other side don't have to do anything, because they know you'll be petrified about falling into it and you'll give everything at the end. So what he's doing at the moment is trying to find a way in which he can legally, and it has to be legally, ensure that the UK can leave any backstop should we not reach an agreement at the end of the next year and a half. And I wish him the best of luck on that. If he does come back with such a legally binding arrangement, then there's a very good chance that they'll get this deal through. But otherwise, I think there's not a lot of chance at all.
Now, the talk radio lady is talking to Daniel Hannan, MEP.
The headline says it all. No self-respecting country would accept this deal. MPs must vote it down. Is there any hope, do you think, that the Prime Minister, Geoffrey Cox, Stephen Barclay or others will win any concessions that would convince your colleagues, the Eurosceptic colleagues in the House of Commons, to vote for this deal?
Well, in theory, of course they could. They're asking for very little. I mean, they've made enormous concessions already. They've accepted a continuing role for the European Court of Justice after we leave. They've accepted...
That's so shocking. Oh, there we are.
An incredibly kind of asymmetric arbitration mechanism. They've accepted this £39 billion that I don't think any international court really thinks that we owe. The only area where they've dug in is on the backstop, and for a very good reason. You know, EU membership has an exit mechanism, and the backstop doesn't. So we're being asked to replace a temporary relationship with a permanent one. And in exchange for a trade deal that hasn't materialized. So the EU could, of course, say, here's a standard break clause, or here's a time limit, and the rest of the deal, I think, would then go through. But the fact that they are refusing to do that, the fact that they are deliberately making it permanent, after these talks with Geoffrey Cox, I think is much more revealing than if they simply hadn't got around to it in the first place, if you see what I mean, because we now can see very clearly what their game is. They want, in perpetuity, to control our trade, not just with them, but with the rest of the world, even after we've left.
This is David Davis being interviewed by Andrew Marr, and the date here is the 10th of March, so we're very close.
David Davis, first of all, what would she need to bring back to win you over?
I'm not sure I'm going to characters of hardcore Brexiteers for by. What she needs to bring back? She needs to bring back a clear ability on the part of the United Kingdom to be able to leave this treaty when it chooses to. There's no other treaty in the world I'm aware of where a sovereign nation undertakes to join up and can only leave when the other side says so.
Interesting.
So that's the key point, the ability to get out when we need to end the backstop proceeding.
Without getting too detailed, is Geoffrey Cox's notion of an arbitration panel, an arbitration committee, acceptable?
Well, it might be. It depends on the criteria, it depends on the arbitration. I mean, the ideal is just a unilateral right to withdraw, which is what is normal in these things. I mean, if you don't have that, there are three problems. One, it hits our constitution, breaks Northern Ireland waivers. Two, it undermines our ability to do trade deals with the rest of the world. And three, it gives all the negotiating levers to the other side. You've got to sort those problems out, and an arbitration panel might do it, but it depends.
Sounds to me as if you think this is a rotten deal and you're pretty determined to vote against it.
Oh, it's a dreadful deal. I mean,
oh, yes, it's a dreadful deal.
It is, I mean, on many counts, but I mean, I would love to be able to vote for it if she gets the ability to pull out. At least then it's rescuable. I mean, throughout this whole process, I've been trying to get the Prime Minister to keep the thing rescuable, and at one point in July I decided it wasn't.
This is the only deal going, and the Prime Minister said very clearly that if you don't vote for this deal, you may take us to a position which is not Brexit at all.
Well, let's be clear about it. Look, after the defeat by 230, clearly Brussels was shocked. You could see that. And the tenor of the language changed. Mr. Varadkar's language changed. Mr. Juncker's language changed. Wait a minute, and it all changed. And then all of a sudden, three cabinet ministers said, you've got to take no deal off the table. You've got to have extension. And then it went back to being hard again.
So why did those three cabinet ministers suddenly change their minds? Was there some jiggery-pokery going on?
I mean, the issue here is the negotiating strategy has gone wrong. And it's gone wrong largely because the government has abandoned the one thing you can do, which is to walk away and hold, if you don't like the deal. We've given that away.
This is all to do with the backstop. Who negotiated the backstop?
Well, with respect, the Prime Minister. I mean, no. With respect, that's not true. I mean, if you read, there's an interesting article.
Here's something interesting.
Are you surprised when you read all these briefings going on about a dinner last week?
No, absolutely not. This is the way in which Brussels impedes negotiations. What they are going to be doing for the next 2 years is pushing London towards a stance, a defensive stance, through leaks, through distortions, and through a strategy of making Theresa May fight for her right to negotiate. She will be negotiating over her right and opportunity to negotiate. There will be no real negotiations.
Well, that gives you an idea of what Europe is like, and God bless to you all. I shall make another one, and this is Catania Alvin signing out, wishing you all a wonderful day.